Hi, I'm Jordan Mechner. Way back in the 80s, I made a game for the Apple II called Karateka. Now, 30 years later, I'm working with a small team to do a modern remake of that game, and I'm going to tell you how we did it. I wanted Karateka to have really smooth cinematic animation, but the thing is I was not a trained animator. I could draw okay, but when I tried to animate my drawings, it just didn't create an illusion of life at all. There's no other way to say it. It looked like programmer art. I decided to try a trick early Disney animators had used called rotoscoping. Rotoscoping is basically filming live actors doing the moves that you want to animate and then literally tracing each frame to get a frame of animation. In the 90s, I did a game called The Last Express, and for this, we actually developed a digital rotoscoping process. It kind of created the illusion of a pen and ink drawing come to life, and we did that for thousands and thousands of frames. This was 1982. This was before CDs, this was before hard drives, this was before videotape. What I had was a Super 8 camera. I borrowed my parents' camera, and I filmed my mom's karate teacher doing the moves that I thought I would need to make Karateka. That first roll of film of my mom's karate teacher, unfortunately, has been lost, but I've got the second roll of film. I realized that I would need additional footage, so I got my dad and my sister to model this footage out in front of our house. I also filmed myself running in a karate outfit. That footage didn't look so good, so I didn't use it. This roll of film was the beginning of the Karateka rotoscoping. Now, the next step was to project the Super 8 film and trace each frame individually on tracing paper. Today, of course, anytime you pick up your cell phone and shoot video, you're actually digitizing. It happens instantly at the touch of a button. We don't even think about it. But back then, I had to do it pixel by pixel. So I did this for every third frame of film, which gave me, I believe, 6 frames a second. This took a very long time. It was an incredibly laborious process. It took me months to go through all these steps just to get to the point of doing the first animation test. But I can still remember the thrill that I felt on seeing that little figure moving across the screen. It was the illusion of life. It was everything I'd hoped for.
Jeff gave us these amazing illustrations, and so it came to the job of the character designers to actually translate those illustrations into things that could play and fight.
It's pretty easy to imagine a version of Karateka that would just be a sprite-based game where instead of my original 8-bit characters, you would have Jeff's drawings. That would totally have worked, but I didn't want to do that. The original Karateka was a side-scrolling game because it had to be. Even though it would have looked like the original game, I felt that wasn't really the most interesting way to try to bring Karateka into the modern day. I wanted the new Karateka to feel cinematic to today's gamers, and to make a great game in 2012 requires a great team. That's why I joined forces with Liquid Entertainment.
We were given the task of bringing these characters to life. Being a fan of Karateka, I was jazzed, I was excited. I knew we had to get these characters right, especially Akuma. This is the Darth Vader of the game. I mean, come on, we have to make sure we got him right. We looked at all forms of reference materials, ranging from real-world martial arts to Chinese fantasy to Japanese horror to us bouncing around with some cameras here in the studio.
Killing me.
We created a lot of material, but the question was, would it work for Karateka?
So early on, they sort of ran me through the course of the game. Some stuff is animated, some stuff isn't animated, and sometimes characters are just sort of like moving through space, like straightforward. They're not really running, and you're like, it'll get better, it'll get better. It's like watching the rough cut of any movie. Like it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be great. You talk about a vertical slice. A vertical slice is when you sort of fully animate one little section of it, so you can see what the whole thing feels like. And the forest was one of the sections that got built out kind of early. There's some leaves that are falling, and you see like the light coming through the trees in the right way. It's like, oh, that's what the game's gonna feel like. So let's get everything up to that level.
Jeff Matsuda's 2D character concepts began to assume three-dimensional life. Our next step was to bring the entire world of Karateka alive with sound and music.